Hi guys, good evening. Welcome to another episode of Elite Mechanic. And today we are going to be spending the time discussing a little bit about a very important component of the any vehicle, the brakes. These brakes are something which is an inevitable part of driving, whichever conditions we are driving. Because of the traffic conditions, any of the time we are just pumping the brakes without even looking, without even thinking. So, what was the origin of the brakes? Initially, the brakes were made with pieces of wood which was holding onto the rubber and slowing down the bike, decelerating, and finally stopping it. Over the years, improvements had happened, and initially the brakes were created, which we today have as the drum brakes. The drum brakes, which we call, is technically again known as the internal expander shoe type, which as we proceed I will show you why is it called so and how it works. And coming on to today's where we are using the disc brakes and then to the ABS. So the important aspects which we need to take care of when we are talking about the brakes is it should have three major properties. It should be strong enough to stop the vehicle for the particular weight it has been designed for. It should have a good anti-fade properties. Anti-fade in the sense that the brake shoes and the drum and the disc against the brake shoes, the wearing and losing of the friction should be less. And thirdly, very importantly, is the ventilation. Because brakes work on the principle of friction, the more the friction, the more the heat which is generated. So this proper ventilation is needed because higher the heat, lower the friction. The classification of the brakes. Brakes are classified based on a few important aspects. Based on the method of actuation, the brakes are classified into mechanical brakes, hydraulic brakes, electric brakes, vacuum servos, air brakes, and by-wire brakes. Today we are more concerned about the hydraulic and the mechanical brakes, which is mainly in use in the vehicles. And secondly, what affects majorly today is the type of the brakes which we classify again as the primary and the secondary brakes. The primary brakes are the ones which we use to stop the vehicle. And the parking brakes, which definitely we do not have on the motorbike, but we have on the four-wheelers, we have it. So these are the two major classifications again we are concerned with. So let us talk about the brakes today. We'll start with the mechanical ones and start with the drum brakes and talk about the disc brakes for today. Talking about the drum brakes, which we generally call, technically as I said, it is called the internal expander shoe type. The reason for the naming is it is housed inside the drum, which is the wheel hub inside the drum. There are two brake shoes which are concentrically placed. So as we pump on the brakes, there is a lever which pushes the brake pads outside, producing a friction, producing a resisting force to the movement of the drum, causing the braking action. The pros and cons with this is this has a lot of moving internal parts, and the ventilation has been a major issue with this. If you remember when we used to ride the scooter the old days, the scooter brakes were not very effective. That was mainly because of this. As the brake shoes heat up, it loses its frictional power and it became smooth. So finally it resulted in very less braking, and at high speeds or when we are coming down the mountain or coming down a slope where the braking requirement was more, the brakes usually used to slip. Talking about the disc brakes, which we can see it here, the disc brakes majorly has two components. The first one is this metal plate, usually made of cast iron. And the second part is this portion, which is the caliper, which has the brake pads inside this. The disc brakes are working mainly with on the hydraulic pressure. This is the hydraulic reservoir which has the brake fluid inside this. So this brake fluid, which is passed on through this line, and it comes down via this line, passed on to the caliper. So the moment the brakes are pressed, as we know, the hydraulic pressure multiplies the force. So with a light force, this force is multiplied inside this, which pushes the brake pads together, and this works on this, holding the plate. This plate which is bolted with the wheels. If you see at the plate, it is open to the air. It has less of the surface, which is compact. So this helps in ventilation massively. So the brake cools down very fast. Coming to the rear brakes, we have the container here which has the brake fluid. This is the line, via the line which comes down, and the brake fluid here is passed on to the caliper which is mounted here. Disc is mounted here. So it is the same thing, the same procedures which is happening when we are pressing on the brakes. The brake fluid through these lines is pushing onto the caliper, which is pushing onto the brake pads and giving us the braking action. One more advancement which has happened today is having the ABS, the anti-lock braking system, which is incorporated in most of the vehicles today. So in our next video, we will be talking about the ABS, the function of the ABS, how it works and how it helps. What are the advantages of having it? We have been on the bike today, which is a non-ABS bike. We don't have the ABS in this. So next time on the ABS, with the ABS, do keep up with us, do follow us, do keep subscribed, and I'm sure you will be liking the small insight into a little bit of mechanics of riding the bikes. Thank you very much, and looking forward to see you again.